Hi guys, so I'm going to actually go over these two problems with you. What we're going to do is we're going to factor this polynomial, y equals x to the third plus 3x squared minus 13x minus 15. We're going to factor that using long division and the factor x plus 1. So it's been a while since we've done long division, but if you remember, we go ahead and we put that factor x plus 1 on the outside, x plus 1, and then I'm going to create my division. And I'm putting this polynomial underneath my division sign. I don't include the y equals part. So I'm just going to put x to the third plus 3x squared minus 13x minus 15. Okay, so if you remember with this long division, basically we start with each of the first terms. So I'm immediately just looking at x and at x to the third. And I'm basically asking myself, what does x need to multiply by to become x to the third? So for x to become x to the third, you would have to multiply x times x to the second power, or x squared. So then I'm going to go ahead and multiply this in. X squared times x is just x to the third. Let me get rid of this line real quick. So x squared times x is x to the third. And then I'm doing x squared times positive 1, which is just positive 1x squared. So then once I have that, I go ahead and subtract those values. So I'm going to put it all in parentheses, and I'm going to subtract it. So I have x to the third minus x to the third. That's going to cancel out, and that's what we want to do. That first term should always cancel. Then I have 3x squared minus positive 1x squared. So 3 minus 1 is 2. And then I just bring down that x squared. And then I'm going to go ahead and bring down my next term, not all of them, just the next one. So minus 13x. Okay, so now I'm looking at the first terms of these ones. So I'm looking at my 2x squared and my x, excuse me, hold on. So I'm looking at my 2x squared and my x, and I'm basically asking myself, what does x need to multiply by to become 2x squared? So it needs a positive 2 and an x. Because if I do 2x times x, erase this again, 2x times x becomes 2x squared. 2x times positive 1 becomes positive 2x. Remember, I just want my first terms to match, so see how those 2x squareds matched, how the x to the thirds matched. The last terms do not have to match, just those first ones. So then I'm going to take this, I'm going to go ahead and subtract it. 2x squared minus 2x squared cancels. I'm going to actually bring in this negative sign here, so I'm going to write it over here. So now I don't have it there. So now I have negative 13 minus 2. They're both negative, so I add them and keep it negative, 15x. Negative 13 minus 2 is negative 15x, and I can go ahead and just bring down the negative 15. Okay, then I do what I was doing one more time. I'm looking at each of my first terms, so negative 15x and x. I'm saying, what does x need to multiply by to become negative 15x? And it needs to be multiplied by a negative 15. And notice for each of these values, your variable decreases by 1, or the exponent of your variable decreases by 1. X to the second, x to the first. This is technically x to the 0. Okay, so then I'm multiplying this through. Negative 15 times x becomes negative 15x. And again, these match. Negative 15 times positive 1 becomes negative 15. I'm going to go ahead and subtract all of these out. And these, basically when I put the double negatives here, this becomes positive, this is a double negative, this becomes positive. Negative 15x plus 15 cancels, negative 15 plus 15 cancels, and we're left with 0 as the remainder. So we do want to have 0 at the end. We should have this. If we do not get 0, something went wrong. So if you remember when we were learning this in class, I think I was like messing up a lot when I was creating them, and I kept not getting 0. So if you don't get 0, something went wrong. You need to make sure you get 0. Then what we're going to do, let me clean this up a little bit. We're actually going to take each of these, so the outside x plus 1, and then this entire thing we just factored, and we're going to put those as our factors of the polynomial. So we have x plus 1, x squared plus 2x minus 15. Okay? We started with this original polynomial up here, x to the third plus 3x squared minus 13x minus 15. We factored it down to these two, and then we can actually factor this second parentheses even further. So I'm going to go ahead and factor the x squared plus 2x minus 15. So I can do that by creating a giant X, remember, putting the last term on top, so negative 15, and then the 2x on the bottom. So I'm looking for two numbers that are going to multiply to negative 15. One's going to be negative, one's going to be positive, so they're going to subtract to 2. Those two numbers are going to be 5 and 3, and then I have to just decide which one's going to be negative. Since the 2 is positive, that means the 5 must be positive, so the 3 is negative. So then I could rewrite this entire factorization. I'm going to go ahead and just bring down this part, so it's going to be x plus 1. And then I take each of these values out of the, like this factored form, the x basically. So it becomes x plus 5 and x minus 3. And this is the fully factored form of the original problem here. Okay, so what we did is we did long division first, and then we broke down that second parentheses even further. This second parentheses we got by doing the long division. That's directly from up here. Okay, you guys are going to be asked to do this next one. Go ahead and try it on your own first. So it says factor the polynomial x to the third plus 4x squared minus 4x minus 16. Use the factor x minus 2. So you're going to go ahead and create your long division, so x minus 2. And then I want to put x to the third plus 4x squared minus 4x minus 16. So you're going to go ahead and start by saying, okay, what do each of these first terms need? What does x need to multiply by to become x to the third? And that's what you're going to put here, and then start by distributing. Go ahead and try it out on your own. Press pause on this video, and then don't press play until you get stuck or you want to check some of your answers or you're completely done. So I will go over it with you guys just to make sure we're all feeling good, because I know it's been a while since we've covered this. But try it on your own. Use the example we just did. Press pause on this video, and then press play when you're ready to go over it. All right, so going through this, just looking at the first terms, what does x need to multiply by to become x to the third? It needs an x squared. So then I'm going to distribute this in. X squared times x is x to the third. These match, perfect. X squared times negative 2 becomes negative 2x squared. Then I'm going to go ahead and subtract these. So when I subtract them, the x to the third power minus x to the third power is 0, so these can cancel. I'm going to go ahead and distribute this negative sign in, so I'm going to bring it in here. So now I have double negatives here, which just turned to positive. So then I have 4x squared plus 2x squared, which is just 6x squared. If you would have kept it this way is fine, where you have the negative 2. You would just have to do negative 4x squared minus negative 2x squared, and that will still get you 6x squared there. Okay, and then once I do that, I'm going to go ahead and bring down my next term, which is negative 4x. Then I look back at the outside expression, and I say, what does x need to multiply by to become 6x squared? It needs to be multiplied by a positive 6x. So then I have 6x times x, which is 6x squared. Those match. 6x times negative 2 is negative 12x. I'm going to go ahead and subtract these. 6x squared minus 6x squared is 0, so they cancel. Negative 4x minus negative 12x. So I'm going to go ahead and distribute that negative in again. So I can go like this. Double negatives become a positive. So now I have negative 4 plus 12. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract them, which is 8x, and it's positive 8x. So negative 4 plus 12, or you owe someone $4, then you give them 12. You gave them 8 extra bucks. Then I'm going to go ahead and bring down that last term, which is negative 16. And you look at your first terms again. What does that x need to become an 8x? It needs a positive 8. So I have 8 times x is 8x. 8 times negative 2 is negative 16, and you could see these are matching up. When I subtract them, 8x minus 8x cancels. Negative 16 minus negative 16 also cancels. So we have that remainder of 0, which is what we wanted. So then I create my whole factor, so this isn't done. I take this, the outside expression, and combine it with this expression up top. So it becomes x minus 2 times x to the second power plus 6x plus 8. So this expression here is what we got from the long division. So then I'm going to take this and I'm going to factor this further. So if you haven't done this already, I suggest you press pause again and try to factor this one even further. So 8 and then 6 goes on the bottom. So I'm looking for two numbers that are going to multiply to 8 but add to 6. So multiply to 8 and add to 6. That's going to be 4 and 2. And then both are positive because 4 times 2 is positive 8. 4 plus 2 is positive 6. And then, so taking these out, this would become x plus 4, x plus 2. And then don't forget about the one the original factor, so x minus 2. And this entire expression would be the factored form of number 2. Again, please show all your work and then take pictures of your work and paste it on the Google Docs. Yeah, and so that's the end of lesson 1. I know it seems short, but I'm hoping unit 10 can be as short as possible, and we can just kind of do videos like this where we go over them together and then go from there. Lesson 2 is on the way soon. It might already be posted by the time you see this, and then lesson 3 is coming right after that, so stay tuned.